Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to make a really quick, simple spotlight card, and I'm using the Fancy Thank You, which came in the, I want to say August card kit from Simon Says Stamp. I've got some A2 waffle flower layers dies, which are really handy just for different layers on your card. And then I'm dragging out the March 24 Classic Tales Spellbinder dies. This was one of the club kits just for a couple of the leaf dies in there. So I have cut out the thank you numerous times, and we'll get to that in a second. And the idea is to create this sort of three-dimensional spotlight kind of thing. I think this is the name of it, but this is what I'm calling it anyway. So I have the I think this is the cotton candy card blank that came in the kit, in this particular kit, and so I've grabbed that and I've used the waffle flower dies to cut some pattern paper, which was also in the kit, and having issues with my glue as always. and I cut some black cardstock in one of the sizes. I just worked with sizes that made sense for me, so whatever looks good to your eye, that's what you should go with. And so I've layered up the one of the patterns. Like I say, the pink in that matches really well with the card base, so that was a handy coincidence. But it's a really pretty paper, not completely my style, but we're gonna make this work. Then I cut a much smaller another layer from the waffle flower set to create the next layer down in black again. And then from another piece of the pattern paper, it's actually the other side of the floral paper, I cut a size smaller using the waffle flower dies again, and I also cut the word thank you into that. This is the, I think I said at the beginning, it's the Fancy Thank You from Simon Says. And so to start with, I'm adding this to the black layer, and very gently, there's some finicky bits, so I'm very gently pushing those down. I had some issues with glue, as you can see, so it is everywhere, but it will dry clear. I'm just trying to get some of it off. And what we're going to start to do is take the extra layers that I cut out. I think I did about 6 or 7 in black. I thought that just made sense given I've got like a pattern paper pastel and black thing going on here. And so I layered in the first die cut of the word thank you. And what I also did when I cut the pattern paper out is I kept all the little pieces. So the like middle of the A, the middle of the U, the O on the U, and the little bits where the T and the H are. And you'll see this makes more sense when we layer them in, so you can actually see the whole word. So on your very first layer, this is what I would do. Now this would make a cool card just like this. It's like an inlay technique that's perfect. You can do this quite happily, and this will make a really lovely card for someone. Even if you wanted to change that slightly, and instead of laying everything flat, you could add some 3D foam to the back of the black panels just to give it a bit of oomph. So I've inlaid all those pieces, so like I say, you can have that as a really nice little card just like that. But that helps build the foundation before you add all the different layers of the word to give it that three-dimensional look. So with the 2 little leaf dies from the Spellbinder kit, I grabbed some distress ink, and I'm just adding this in. This is kind of a minty coloured cardstock, which matched again with the background, but I wanted them to be a little bit more, I don't know, just gives them a little bit of something. When you add a bit of ink to them, just lifts them a bit. And so I just went with I think it was Forest Moss, but any ink, you could use a black or a brown if that's more your thing. I do tend to do that more with Halloween cards, but or vintagey kind of cards, but because this is the only inking I've done on this card, I didn't want to overpower it. So I just used a colour that I thought, an ink colour that I thought would work still with the background, which it does. So what I'm doing here, it might look a little odd, but I'm actually going over the parts of the word. And yes, I purposefully made the word look like it's squonk, so just for a bit of something. So it's meant to be at an angle, just in case you're wondering, because I don't do straight. We all know this, but so I added that, added the stems of the leaves sort of across some of the the tail of the words. And this is so that when I start adding all the layers, I'm sort of enveloping, is that the right word, the leaves in there so that they look like they're coming out from the words. I hope that made sense. Anyway, so now is the tedious task, because it is quite a lot of gluing and stuff. And I will vary how I actually get these things stuck in here. You can either put it on the back of the die cut, or you can do what I'm doing here and add it to the layer below. And then all you want to do is, as you're sticking it down, just make sure as much as you can, and for me it's never going to be perfect, but just try and lay them as much as you can directly on top of the one below. And that way it would give you that sort of depth. If they're a little off, I mean, you could do that and it would look almost like a shadow kind of thing, or that sort of, I want to say that 80s sort of vibe where things sort of look a bit like pixelated and going like they're blurred almost. So you could do that if you wanted to do each layer in a different color, for example, and then have just a totally different look. But for this one, I'm trying to get it to look as sort of like it's jumping out of the card. So I'm just layering up and layering each layer on top. There's a lot of layers on top of the next one as much as I can lined up, sort of straight down. There are a couple of areas, you can't see it on camera thankfully, but there are a couple of areas where I sort of, it's a little wonky. It's not quite straight down, but it's fine. It actually looks really nice once you get everything laid up. So you keep going with this. Again, with the number of layers here, you could still have this as a very cool card. You could leave this as is, and just with this sort of dimensional black word. Obviously you can have any color you want, but when we put the final layer on, for me it just kind of pops, and suddenly it's like, that's what it's supposed to do. I don't know, it satisfies me every time. Every time I do this. I don't do it often because it's a lot of work, because there's a lot of die cutting, like you have to cut the same thing out numerous times, and I'd say the more layers you have, sort of 6 or 7, is a good number of layers, even if the 7th layer is your top layer, which is also the first cut you would do into the pattern paper. You could have a background that you've inked yourself. You could have pattern paper like we've done today. You could have anything like glitter cardstock, or what's the other one, holographic cardstock. You could do it with any of these things. It's just making sure you can actually read whatever that word is, and it works really well with words rather than images, but I would imagine images would work just as, actually images would work, what am I saying, but words work really well. You just need to be able to see them. So this is where this sort of spotlight, I feel like that's not the right word for it, but that's what I'm calling it today. It sort of jumps out the page now, and so you've got this sort of dimensional 3D word that's just popping out, and I just think it gives such a good, cool look. Like I say, I've done it before with other other word dyes, but yeah, even an image would work really nicely if you've got a good image that would look really 3D, if that makes sense. But words work, so if you've got sentiment dyes, perfect. So once I'd done that, I just restuck some of my leaves because they were kind of doing their own thing. And because my glue wasn't behaving, this took forever to dry. But that's the card. It's really simple, but it's very effective, and it's got that 3D kind of look, where it's just jumping out the page, and I love it. I think it's such a cool look. So you can see how many layers there are. There's a lot of them, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you try this technique out if you've never done it before, and let me know if you've done it with other die cuts, not words, so we can see what you guys have done as well. So until next time, guys, bye for now.